got the hottest seat in the country, but when it comes to the crunch, he has to rely on others to get the job done. What's it like being Springbok coach when every fan's an expert and winning is the only option?
Jake White, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the programme.
My pleasure, my dear.
I know you've just come from a news briefing and you were saying that it's a kind of stressful time. You've just come back on holiday. How's it going?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's it's been a difficult year. We've played Australia 3 times, New Zealand 3 times, and now we go off to play England twice and Ireland. So it doesn't get any easier. But saying that, it's been good fun being the national coach for a couple of years.
When you talk about being the national coach, immediately one thinks about a lot of the pressure that comes with it. So let's just go backtrack a little bit. Of course, you used to be a teacher. Yes, you're informing and having people being very receptive of what you say. Being the coach, in as much as there are those who are receptive, there are just as many, if not more, who are ready to knock you at every stumble. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think teaching's helped me because there's no doubt that teaching schoolboys and coaching senior players is exactly the same. There's a subject that we try and get across, and that's rugby. The one difference is obviously the pressures. I mean, as you say, you get audited every Saturday by 40 million people that think they can do better than you. And because rugby is an emotional game, it's our national sport, people feel as though, that they need to express their emotions and their views. But in terms of handling it, I think one just has to be true to what you believe in, and that's the most important aspect.
It's one thing to do as you say and be true to what you believe in when you're in an environment where you're surrounded by people who are supportive, who are family, who care about you and love you. But when you go out there into the real world, that's not always the case, especially if the Boks are in a bit of a slump. What do you do with that? I mean, surely that stirs up all kinds of emotions, but you're not going to be able to have the luxury of lashing out.
Yeah, again, I think what you say, Tommy, is 100% right. When we win, going out to eat out for dinner, and it's wonderful. People are obviously very friendly, and when you lose, I wouldn't say they're rude, but you can see that they obviously, everyone feels a little bit despondent. But in the 3 years that I've been the coach, I've got to say that the genuineness and friendliness of all the people. And I've got to say, especially the black community, I think, to be honest, I think the black community have shown what true supporters are like. They're the same every time. And when I go and get a hamburger at the local sort of hamburger place, the chap who cooks the hamburgers is as chuffed to see me when we're winning or when we're losing. And I think that's, when you put that in perspective, you realize that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's about doing your best and making sure that you deliver to the expectations of the people.
I don't think many people have to go long to remind you about Brisbane and basically the country feeling quite shell-shocked thereafter. And you?
Well, when you say the country, we include ourselves in that. We as a group of players never ever envisaged that would ever happen. We were really outplayed. But there was a lesson in that. And I think the lesson for me and the team, and hopefully for everyone concerned, is that at that point there was a lot of bit of instability in terms of my future, in terms of what happens after, my tenure. Was I going to stay? Was I going to go? There was a lot of talk about me going to coach overseas. And I think, again, from a leadership point of view, no one must ever underestimate that workers that work for a leader, and when the leader is under threat or when they're not sure whether the leader is going to stay or go, that creates uncertainty. And with uncertainty comes results like that. So there's no doubt that in hindsight, we, not only the players, myself, learned that there's a huge impact that it has on players in terms of making sure leadership is strong. So
are you going to stay or are you going to go?
No, I've got to stay. I think it's something that we've set up. The players, I've chatted to them about it. I've always wanted to stay. It was never a question. I'm loving the fact that I'm the national coach. I'm loving the fact that we've dealt with a lot of group of players that are some of the best in the world. And I really believe that this team can win the World Cup. So, it's a big ambition of ours, a big ambition of a group of players, a big ambition of the coaching staff. So, yeah, we're going to stay and we're going to make sure we try and win the World Cup.
You say you've always wanted to stay, but how many moments have you had where you felt you wanted to say, stop the train, I want to get off?
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said you never think like that. But I think when you sit back and you take a step backwards and you look again and you see how fortunate you are and the sort of group of people you're dealing with, I think people and the players, especially the players, would think really poorly of me if I did walk away. I think we've had to go through this together, and there are times, like anybody, I'm sure there are people sitting in high-profile jobs who sometimes ask themselves the question, is it worth it? But as I say, looking back, the good times have been a lot better than the bad times, and going forward, as I say, when I reflect on it, there's a job to be done, and I'm going to stay and make sure it gets done.